Funny thing about family. They're the ones who claim to know you best. Yet sometimes they're the first to turn the key when chaos knocks. You trust them. You let them in. You tell yourself they'd never cross a line until they do. And then suddenly, everything feels colder. The people you once thought were your shelter become the storm itself. You see, it's always the familiar faces that know where to strike. Not out of hate, no, but out of fear, jealousy, or that quiet hunger for control. They smile as they do it too, because they call it helping. Betrayal hits hardest when it wears a familiar face. It's not the stranger that breaks you. It's the one who said they'd never leave. The one who laughed with you, ate with you, stood beside you when the world felt too heavy. You never see it coming, because you don't expect the knife from the same hand that once wiped your tears. That's what makes it sting. Strangers can't betray you, they can only hurt you. Betrayal requires trust and family. Well, that's where trust lives deepest. You think blood means safety. You grow up believing that family is unbreakable, that they'd defend you no matter what. But then one day, the tone changes. The same voices that once cheered for you start to sound different. Subtle at first. A joke that cuts too deep. A secret that somehow got out. You try to brush it off. Tell yourself they didn't mean it that way. But deep down, you know, the shift has begun. The warmth in their words fades, replaced by something colder, something you can't quite name. That's the thing about betrayal from family. It doesn't start with a fight. It starts with small cracks. The kind you ignore because you want to believe it's still love. You tell yourself they're just stressed, just jealous, just confused. You keep making excuses because the alternative, that they've turned on you, is too heavy to accept. You convince yourself it's not betrayal, just misunderstanding. Until it's too late and the damage is already done. You start to see the pattern. The moments they celebrated your pain, the times they smiled when you failed, the advice that sounded like care but led you right into trouble. You remember how they'd comfort you, not because they wanted you to heal, but because they wanted to watch you break again. It's a twisted kind of loyalty. They want you close enough to control, but not strong enough to surpass them. That's when it hits you. They were never protecting you. They were protecting their position in your story. It's strange how betrayal doesn't always come with anger. Sometimes it comes with quiet realization that the people you thought would fight for you were actually the ones holding the door open for your downfall. You replay conversations, reanalyze memories, and suddenly, everything makes sense. The warning signs you ignored weren't whispers, they were sirens. You just didn't want to hear them because you loved the sound of family too much. And the cruelest part, they still act like they care. They'll hug you, smile at you, say they're worried. But there's a flicker in their eyes. That satisfaction of knowing they have power over how you feel. They won't strike when you expect it. They'll wait until you're vulnerable, until you need them. And that's when they twist the blade. Because betrayal for them isn't just about hurting you, it's about control. You start to understand that family isn't defined by blood, it's defined by loyalty, by who shows up when the room turns cold, by who defends you when you're not there to defend yourself. Some people share your DNA, but not your spirit. They don't see you as family. They see you as competition, as reflection, as a reminder of what they couldn't become. And so they sabotage you. Not because they hate you, but because they hate what you represent. You learn to stop expecting apologies. Betrayal from family rarely comes with guilt. They'll convince themselves they were right, that you deserved it, that they were just doing what was best. They rewrite the story so they can still sleep at night. Meanwhile, you're left sorting through the pieces, wondering how something sacred could shatter so easily. But deep down, you know, it didn't break suddenly. It decayed slowly, and you just didn't want to see it. There's a point when you stop seeking closure. You realize no conversation, no explanation will ever make sense of it. Because how do you explain betrayal from someone who once called you their own? You can't. You just learn to live differently. You stop trusting words and start watching actions. You stop expecting family to heal you and start healing yourself. It changes you being betrayed by someone close. You grow quieter. You stop giving everyone access to your softness. You build walls, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. You start measuring love by consistency, not titles. Because once you've been cut by someone who said they loved you, you learn that loyalty isn't spoken, it's shown. And maybe the most haunting part of all is that you still care. Even after the betrayal, part of you still wants to believe they didn't mean it, that they'll come back different. But they won't. People don't betray you by accident, they betray you by choice. And once they've crossed that line, they don't go back. You don't hate them. You just stop waiting for them to be who you thought they were. Betrayal from family doesn't destroy you immediately. It changes the way you love, the way you trust, the way you see people. You start realizing that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, and closeness doesn't guarantee honesty. And while that realization hurts, it also frees you. Because once you stop expecting purity from people who thrive in poison, you start protecting your peace more fiercely than ever before. Love can hide manipulation behind concern. It's the sweetest disguise there is. It doesn't start with control. It starts with care. The words sound gentle. The tone sounds warm. And before you know it, you're mistaking a leash for love. They say they're worried about you. They say they just want what's best, but every "I care about you" comes with a condition. Every act of kindness comes with a hook. You think they're protecting you, but what they're really doing is keeping you within reach. Emotionally, mentally, sometimes even physically. They'll wrap their control in affection. It's clever, really. They don't tell you what to do. They suggest. They don't forbid you, they advise. They don't demand, they worry. And you fall for it. Because who questions love? Who questions someone who says they care? You don't want to seem ungrateful or distant. So you start bending, compromising, shrinking, just to keep their love comfortable. You stop realizing that what they call care is really surveillance, that what they call guidance is just a way to make sure you never outgrow their reach. They use guilt like an artist uses color, skillfully, beautifully, effectively. After everything I've done for you, you wouldn't understand. I just care. I'm only trying to help. Those words sound harmless, but they carry poison. You start doubting your own instincts, second, guessing your decisions, apologizing for things that aren't even wrong. They teach you to associate their approval with peace and their disappointment with danger. You start living to please them, not realizing that the price of their love is your freedom. The manipulation hides behind emotion. They cry when you pull away. They get quiet when you stand up for yourself. They say you've changed when you start to grow. But that's the trick. They want you to feel guilty for evolving. They want you to believe that independence is betrayal. They want you to keep needing them, because the moment you stop needing them, they lose control. That's not love. That's ownership disguised as affection. They'll play both sides of the game, savior and victim. One moment they're rescuing you from chaos. The next they're reminding you how much they sacrificed. They make you feel like you owe them, like your happiness is built on their suffering. It's not love, it's leverage. They tie your gratitude to your obedience, and they call it family. You start confusing loyalty with submission, thinking you're honoring them by dimming yourself. But love doesn't shrink you, it expands you. Sometimes it takes years to see it. You wake up one day and realize you haven't made a single choice that wasn't filtered through someone else's expectations. You realize your life has been edited by their fears, your dreams replaced by their comfort. And when you finally resist, they panic. They call you ungrateful, distant, selfish. Because they can't stand the idea of losing the control they built under the name of love. It's not always malicious. Some people manipulate because it's all they know. They were raised on the same pattern. Control disguised as care. Guilt disguised as affection. They believe they're doing what's right. But intent doesn't erase impact. When someone uses love to control you, it still suffocates, even if they think it's protection. You start learning that not everyone who loves you understands how to love you. You begin to see how love can become a cage. A beautiful one with comfort and warmth, but a cage nonetheless. It teaches you dependence, teaches you fear of disappointing, teaches you to stay small so no one gets upset. They build the walls with affection, so you thank them for your confinement. You stop realizing you're trapped because it feels like home. But eventually, something inside you starts to stir. The quiet voice that says, "This isn't love." That's when the real war begins. The moment you try to break free, they'll make you question your sanity. They'll twist the story, say you're the problem, that you're ungrateful, that you've been influenced by others. They'll use your empathy against you because they know you still care. And you'll want to explain, to fix, to prove your intentions. But manipulation doesn't end with explanation. It ends with distance. Love, when real, never chains you. It doesn't demand that you stay small. It doesn't make you afraid to say no. But manipulated love thrives on confusion. It wants you tired, emotional, unsure of your own worth. It keeps you running in circles, apologizing just to maintain peace. And they know exactly what they're doing. Because the more uncertain you feel, the more control they have. Eventually, you stop mistaking concern for control. You start hearing the tone behind the words, seeing the pattern behind the care. You realize that the people who truly love you don't need to manage you. They trust you. They don't disguise control as protection. They give you the freedom to make mistakes, to grow, to learn. And when you find that kind of love, you finally understand how wrong the other kind was. Because love that hides manipulation isn't love at all. It's fear dressed as safety. And it feeds on the part of you that still wants to be seen as good. Even when you're the one being used. Not every family bond is built on loyalty. People like to say family is forever, but they never tell you that forever doesn't always mean faithful. Blood may connect you, but it doesn't guarantee truth. Doesn't guarantee respect, and certainly doesn't guarantee love. Some people share your last name, but not your heart. They'll stand beside you for the picture, but secretly hope you fall right after the flash. They'll toast to your success, but only because they think it should have been theirs. You start to realize that loyalty isn't inherited. It's earned, and sometimes even family fails that test. Loyalty is quiet. It doesn't boast, doesn't perform. But betrayal, oh, it's loud once it happens. You can feel it before it's spoken. The way someone's tone changes when your name comes up, the way they avoid eye contact when truth gets too close. You start catching the small betrayals first, the little leaks of your secrets, the subtle shifts in energy when you enter a room. At first, you deny it. You tell yourself you're imagining things, that family would never turn on family. But deep down, you know. You feel the fracture before you can even name it. It's funny how loyalty gets tested most when you're not around. That's when you learn who defends your name and who quietly lets it be dragged through the dirt. Some of them won't lie outright. They'll just stay silent while others do it for them. That's how betrayal often looks within a family. Not open war, but quiet consent. They'll claim they're staying out of it, but their silence is the knife. They'll tell you they didn't say anything, as if that makes them innocent, but you'll know they didn't need to. Because loyalty isn't about speaking. It's about standing. And they didn't. The most dangerous kind of betrayal doesn't come from hate. It comes from jealousy. That silent, festering envy that hides behind a smile. They'll cheer for you publicly. But behind closed doors, they'll pick apart your flaws, your choices, your wins. Must be nice, they'll say. You changed. They'll whisper. They can't celebrate you because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. They'll mask their resentment as concern, their criticism as advice. But underneath it all, it's just bitterness wearing politeness. You start realizing that loyalty has nothing to do with who shares your blood and everything to do with who shares your values. There are people out there with no relation to you who would protect you more fiercely than those who share your DNA. And that's a hard truth to swallow. Because family isn't supposed to compete with you, or use you, or measure your worth against their insecurities. But some do. They love you when you're beneath them, tolerate you when you're equal, and despise you when you rise. That's not loyalty. That's ownership. They'll call you distant when you stop giving them access. They'll say you've changed when you stop playing your old role in their story. They'll twist it until you look like the villain. Because your boundaries threaten their control, they'll gather in corners, whispering about how you've become different, not realizing that difference was survival. You didn't change out of arrogance. You changed out of exhaustion. You just stopped bleeding for people who kept calling the knife love. There's a strange kind of peace that comes with accepting that loyalty isn't guaranteed. It frees you from the illusion of obligation. You stop chasing the approval of people who were never going to be happy for you anyway. You stop explaining your choices to those who only listen to judge. You start protecting your peace, your energy, your progress, because you realize family isn't who claims you, it's who shows up when it counts. The ones who are loyal, truly loyal, don't need to be asked. They don't gossip about your pain or disappear in your chaos. They defend you when you're not in the room. They hold your truth when the world twists it. They don't compete, they support. They don't keep score, they keep faith. And you start to see the difference between those who love you for who you are and those who only loved what you gave them. It hurts, that realization. You grieve the version of family you thought you had. You look at faces you once trusted and see strangers wearing familiar features. But grief turns to clarity. You stop mistaking access for closeness. You start building your circle differently, smaller, quieter, stronger. Loyalty becomes your language, and you learn to listen for it, not assume it. You learn that family isn't sacred by default. It's sacred by choice. It's the people who stay when things get ugly, who speak your name with respect when you're not there to hear it. It's the ones who don't need to understand your path to walk beside you anyway. And those people, whether they share your blood or not, they're the real family. The rest, they were just the lesson. Reputation built on truth outlives, rumor built on noise. It's strange how quickly lies spread, isn't it? How fast a whisper can turn into a storm. How one twisted version of your story can become the truth in other people's mouths. But what's even stranger is how calm truth remains. It doesn't rush to defend itself. It doesn't panic. It just waits. Because time always reveals what talk tries to hide. The ones who build their lives on rumor might get attention for a moment, but the ones who build on truth last. Because truth, unlike gossip, doesn't need to be repeated to survive. It just is. People love noise. They love drama, chaos, exaggeration. They crave the feeling of being in the know, even when what they know is poison. They'll add words you never said, emotions you never felt, and actions you never did, all to make the story fit their fantasy. They'll spread it like wildfire because it distracts them from their own emptiness. Lies are cheap entertainment, and most people can't resist a good show. But shows end. Lies collapse. They always do. It just takes longer than you'd like. When your name becomes the topic of conversation, you learn who listens for truth and who listens for noise. Some people will ask you directly, others will assume, and a few, the rare ones, will stay silent because they know better. Those are the ones who've been lied about before. They recognize the tone of envy in someone else's accusation. They know how rumors are built, not on evidence, but on emotion, and emotion always fades. A rumor is like smoke. It clouds vision for a while, but eventually it clears, and everyone sees who started the fire. The problem is, people often panic in the smoke. They try to scream louder than the lies, to fight back, to prove themselves to people who were never interested in the truth to begin with. That's what the liars want, your reaction. Because every time you explain, you feed the rumor. Every time you defend, you confirm there's something to defend. Silence, on the other hand, terrifies them, because silence means control. Silence means you know something they don't. That truth doesn't need your help. Reputation isn't what people say about you. It's what time says about you after they've stopped talking. Let them say what they want. Let them build their stories. Eventually, patterns reveal themselves. The ones who lie do it often, to everyone. The ones who live truthfully stay consistent. People might be fooled for a while, but time never is. Time always favors truth. Because truth doesn't fade when gossip gets boring. It stands even when no one's looking. The funny thing about rumors is that they always say more about the teller than the target. When someone lies about you, they're really confessing how they think, how they feel, what they're capable of. They're projecting their insecurities onto your silence. They want to bring you down to their level because your calmness reminds them of their chaos. They don't hate you because of who you are. They hate you because of how you make them feel. Small, insecure, exposed. That's why they talk. It's not truth they're spreading. It's pain disguised as storytelling. And you, if you're wise, won't play the game. You'll let them talk while you build. You'll let them whisper while you move. Because every time you act instead of react, you remind them that their noise doesn't touch your purpose. That's what eats them alive. Not that they lied, but that their lie didn't stop you. They wanted to stain your name, but you turned your name into a brand. They wanted to destroy your peace, but you turned it into armor. That's what drives them mad, your indifference. Reputation built on truth doesn't crumble under rumor. It absorbs it, grows stronger from it. Because every accusation forces people to watch you closer. And when they do, they see your consistency, your discipline, your patience. The lie becomes your spotlight, but only if you stay still long enough for them to see the truth. You don't need to shout your innocence. You just need to live it. People eventually grow tired of noise. They crave something real. And when the dust settles, the ones who spoke lies disappear into the same silence they tried to destroy. But the ones who stood in truth remain, not because they fought harder, but because they didn't have to. Truth defends itself. Lies exhaust themselves. You just have to outlast the noise, and you will. Because noise fades. It always does. But truth echoes forever. Betrayal's just revelation in disguise. It hurts, yes, but only because it shows you something you refused to see before. You thought they were loyal. You thought they were solid. You thought they cared. But betrayal strips away the illusion. It doesn't create the monster, it reveals it. The lie was never in their action. It was in your belief that they'd never do it. And that's the part that stings. Not what they did, but how blind you were to who they really were. It's not the knife that surprises you. It's the hand that holds it. People wear masks so well that you start believing their faces. They laugh with you, cry with you, tell you you're safe with them. You build trust like a tower, brick by brick, never realizing some of those bricks were hollow. They play their part perfectly, until the moment they see something they want more than your trust. Attention, validation, control. That's when the mask slips, and you see the truth for the first time. The betrayal doesn't change them. It just unmasks them. It's funny how betrayal always comes dressed as honesty. They'll tell you they had to do it, that you deserved to know, that it was for your own good. But the truth doesn't need to stab to be spoken. The truth doesn't sneak. It doesn't whisper behind doors. It doesn't smile while cutting your name apart. Betrayal is never about truth. It's about control. It's about someone deciding your trust is worth less than their ego. They don't think of the damage. They think of the moment. The thrill of being powerful, even if it's through destruction. When it happens, your world tilts. You replay conversations. Try to find the signs you missed. The little jokes that suddenly feel sharp, the small glances that now look calculated. You start to realize the betrayal didn't happen in one moment. It was built over time, piece by piece. While you were too loyal to notice, you call it betrayal, but it's really revelation. Because for the first time, you see them without filters. You see their envy, their insecurity, their hunger for validation. You see how long they've been waiting for your fall. And yet, as painful as it is, there's something freeing about it. You stop pretending. You stop making excuses for people who wouldn't make the same for you. You stop defending those who secretly hoped you'd fail. Betrayal burns, but it also clears. It removes the false, the fragile, the convenient. It's a violent form of honesty, but honesty nonetheless. It shows you who deserves access and who deserves distance. You begin to understand that loyalty isn't proven in calm. It's tested in chaos. Anyone can smile with you when you're winning. But watch who disappears when you fall. Watch who laughs when the rumors start. Watch who stays silent when your name is under fire. That silence speaks louder than any knife. Because betrayal isn't always an act. Sometimes it's an absence. The absence of defense, of presence, of care. People think betrayal is the end. But it's really the beginning of understanding. Once you've been betrayed, you start seeing patterns faster. You read energy instead of words. You stop mistaking charm for character. You stop assuming love means loyalty. You stop giving blind trust to anyone who claims closeness. You learn that real loyalty doesn't need proof. It shows up without being asked. You stop expecting everyone to match your heart. And that's where revelation becomes power. Because once you know who someone really is, they can't fool you again. The betrayal loses its sting and becomes your armor. You no longer fear loss because you've already survived it. You no longer fear lies because you've already seen how truth survives them. You no longer need apologies from those who broke you. Their silence says enough. The ones who betray you will eventually betray someone else. It's not personal. It's their nature. And people like that always end up alone, surrounded by the same emptiness they tried to give you. You, however, will move differently, softer, wiser, calmer. You won't carry anger, just awareness. You won't chase revenge, just distance. Because betrayal may cut deep, but it also carves clarity. So when it happens, when the knife finds its way into your back, don't curse the pain too quickly. That pain is teaching you something. Who was real? Who was pretending? And most importantly, who you'll never need again. Because betrayal isn't destruction. It's revelation wearing a cruel disguise. It's life showing you who can't go with you to the next chapter, no matter how familiar their face looks on the cover. Hello, my dear. You ever notice how the world gets quiet right before something big happens? Like the air itself knows a secret you don't. There's this tension, this electricity hiding underneath the silence. You can feel it in your chest, in your bones, like the whole universe is holding its breath, waiting for you to make your move. That's what tomorrow morning is. It's not just another sunrise, not just another day. It's the test. The one you've been unknowingly training for through every failure, every disappointment, every long night you thought would never end. Pressure always precedes purpose. You don't just wake up one morning and fall into destiny. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets or applause. No, it sneaks up on you through the cracks of your breaking points. It comes wrapped in tension, frustration, and sleepless nights that whisper, there has to be more than this. Pressure isn't punishment. It's the proof that something inside you is ready to emerge. It's the weight life places on those it intends to elevate. The weak crumble under it. But the chosen, they learn to breathe through it. Pressure is the universe's way of stretching you beyond what's comfortable. It makes you question everything. Your worth, your direction, your strength. It pushes you into corners where you either evolve or disappear. You see, people love the idea of purpose, but they hate the process that leads to it. Because purpose doesn't grow in peace, it grows in chaos. It's not found in comfort, it's forged in the dark. Pressure comes first because without it, you'd never discover how much power you actually have. You can't be trusted with purpose until you've survived pressure. That's the rule. Life will squeeze you until the parts of you that don't belong are forced out. The ego, the fear, the laziness, the doubt. It doesn't care about your timeline, your feelings, or your plans. It cares about readiness. And readiness doesn't come from wanting something. It comes from withstanding something. The chosen aren't the strongest. They're the ones who didn't run when everything started to collapse. They stayed, bleeding, shaking, doubting, but still standing. That's how purpose recognizes you. By your endurance, not your enthusiasm. You think the weight on your shoulders is a sign you're doing something wrong. No. It's a sign you're carrying something valuable. Diamonds don't form in open air. They form under pressure. You want clarity, expect crushing. You want strength, expect struggle. You want destiny, expect darkness. Because pressure has a language. It speaks in resistance. It asks, will you still believe when belief no longer feels rewarding? It tests whether your commitment is louder than your comfort. Most people misread pressure. They see it as rejection when it's really selection. You weren't denied. You were being developed. You weren't overlooked. You were being overhauled. Pressure is personal. It customizes itself to your calling. That's why no one else can understand what you're going through. They don't have your assignment, so they don't feel your fire. You try to explain it to them, but they look at you like you're crazy. They can't see that what's crushing you is actually carving you, that what's breaking you down is also building you up in secret. Pressure isolates you. It separates you from the crowd because purpose doesn't grow in groups. It grows in solitude, where there's nowhere to run and no one to blame. That's where you learn who you are without the noise. That's where you stop pretending, stop performing, stop waiting for someone else to rescue you. Pressure forces you inward, to face your weaknesses, your fears, your truth. It's brutal, but necessary. Because purpose can't live in a body that refuses to confront itself. You'll notice something strange when you stop fighting pressure. It starts transforming you. The same weight that once made you break now makes you unshakable. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? That's the shift. That's when you begin to see pressure for what it really is. Not an obstacle, but an introduction. It's life's way of saying, you're almost ready. The funny thing is, the moment right before breakthrough always feels like the moment before collapse. The tension gets heavier, the silence louder, the fear sharper. It's supposed to feel that way, because pressure peaks right before transformation. It's the final test. The universe asking, do you really want this? Or do you just want it easy? Most give up there, right at the edge, because they mistake pain for failure. But pain is just the signal that something's about to shift. You can't step into purpose lightly. It demands proof that you can handle what comes with it. The loneliness, the responsibility, the misunderstanding. Pressure builds that proof. It's the weightlifting of the soul. Every burden, every heartbreak, every loss. It's all training. You may not see it now, but every tear has been tempering you. Every delay strengthening your resolve. You're not behind schedule. You're in rehearsal. And once you start recognizing pressure for what it is, you stop resenting it. You stop running from it. You realize that the pressure didn't come to destroy you. It came to define you. It came to separate who you were from who you're meant to be. It came to turn confusion into clarity, fear into faith, pain into preparation. Because before purpose ever introduces itself, pressure always knocks first. Preparation happens in silence, not spotlight. Everyone wants to be seen, to be recognized, to have their moment. But the real work, the kind that changes everything, happens when no one's watching. The spotlight is seductive. It makes you crave validation, applause, proof that what you're doing matters. But the truth is, nothing truly great is built under attention. It's built in quiet rooms, behind closed doors, when it's just you, your doubt, and your discipline. Silence is where the chosen are shaped. Silence doesn't give you encouragement. It doesn't clap when you show up. It doesn't care how tired you are. It just watches. It tests you. It asks if you can stay consistent without an audience, if you can keep building, when there's no reward, no recognition, no reassurance. Most people can't. They want progress to come with applause, but growth doesn't work like that. Growth hides. It builds layer by layer unseen, until one day it bursts through the surface, and the world calls it overnight success. But there's no such thing. There's only silent preparation. Silence is uncomfortable because it exposes what's real. You can't fake effort there. You can't pretend you're working when no one's keeping score. That's why most people avoid it. They stay busy, loud, surrounded by noise, because noise distracts from truth. But silence strips you bare. It shows you exactly who you are when no one's looking. It's the mirror that doesn't lie. And that's where real transformation begins. The chosen learn to love the quiet because they understand that the silence is sacred. It's not emptiness, it's investment. Every repetition, every late night, every unseen sacrifice is currency for what's coming. The spotlight doesn't make you ready. Silence does. You don't get stronger when you're performing. You get stronger when you're practicing. That's why destiny hides itself from the loud. It looks for the ones who can grind in the dark, who can handle the weight of preparation without the comfort of praise. There's something brutal about preparation. It's lonely. It's repetitive. It feels like nothing's working. You wake up, do the same thing again, question yourself, wonder if any of it matters. But that's the test. Can you keep showing up when it feels pointless? Because that's when you're being built. in the spaces where it feels like nothing's happening. You don't see the growth because it's internal. You're being rewired, reprogrammed, refined. Every small decision, every moment of patience, every time you resist the urge to quit. It's all preparation stacking in silence. People love to talk about destiny, but they forget that destiny demands discipline. Everyone wants the reward, but no one wants the rehearsal. The chosen don't wait for motivation. They move without it. They train their minds to find comfort in consistency, to keep going when excitement fades. Because preparation isn't about passion. It's about endurance. It's about proving to yourself that you can be trusted with what you've been asking for. The spotlight exposes what silence didn't strengthen. That's why so many people crumble when they finally get what they wanted. Fame, success, opportunity. They weren't built for it. They wanted the light, but skipped the grind. And when the light hits weak foundations, everything falls apart. That's why the universe hides you while it's building you. You think you're being delayed, but you're being developed. You think you're forgotten, but you're being fortified. Silence isn't rejection, it's protection. It's the space where the rough edges are filed down, where the insecurities are burned out, where the pressure becomes power. Silence makes you dangerous. Because when you've learned to grow without validation, you no longer need permission. You stop chasing attention because you've already proven yourself in the dark. The loud ones need eyes on them to stay alive. The quiet ones, they're a storm waiting to happen. They move differently because they've seen what solitude can do. They've seen how silence sharpens focus, how isolation breeds clarity, how stillness births strength. Preparation in silence also teaches patience, the kind that can't be faked. You stop rushing the process. You stop comparing timelines. You realize that your season of silence is not a curse. It's calibration. It's aligning you with what's ahead. Because when the moment finally comes, when the spotlight turns and your name is called, you won't hesitate. You'll be ready, not surprised. Ready because you already did the work when nobody cared. And here's the thing. The ones who make the most noise early rarely last, because they confuse visibility with victory. But the chosen understand something deeper. They know that silence is not absence, it's preparation time. The soil doesn't make sound when the seed is growing. The storm doesn't warn before it hits. Preparation happens quietly, slowly, intentionally. It's not supposed to look impressive. It's supposed to make you unbreakable. You won't always feel it. You'll doubt. You'll question if the silence means you're stuck. But every time you stay consistent, when it would have been easier to quit, you're building muscle. Not just in your body, but in your mind, in your spirit. You're training yourself for what most people can't handle. The silence isn't your punishment, it's your proving ground. And when the world finally sees you, they'll call it sudden. They'll call it luck, they'll call it fate. But you'll know, it wasn't sudden. It was silence. The chosen are refined, not rewarded. Everyone wants the title, no one wants the process. People love the idea of being chosen. They imagine success, recognition, a golden path with no obstacles. But being chosen doesn't come with rewards. It comes with responsibility, pressure, and pain that doesn't make sense until much later. You don't get chosen because you're special. You get chosen because you can endure what others can't. Because somewhere deep inside, there's something unbreakable that life needs to test before it can be trusted. Refinement isn't pretty. It's fire. It's friction. It's being stripped of everything that isn't real until only the truth remains. The chosen aren't handed crowns. They're handed chaos. They're thrown into situations that feel impossible, surrounded by people who misunderstand them, trapped in seasons that stretch them thin. And while the world looks away, assuming they're lost, they're actually being shaped in silence. That's the part no one talks about. The refining process that happens before anyone ever calls your name. Being chosen doesn't mean you're favored. It means you're forged. The universe doesn't choose the comfortable, it chooses the capable. And capability is built through pressure, loss, and pain that burns away everything weak. You're not given what you can handle. You're given what will make you stronger. That's the refinement. Life takes the parts of you that are still raw and throws them into the fire until you stop reacting and start rising. Until you stop needing to be understood and start understanding yourself. Refinement looks like isolation. You lose people. You lose plans. You lose the illusion of control. It's like life puts you in a furnace and locks the door, whispering, "When you're ready, you'll walk out new." And it hurts. Because refinement is not gentle. It takes your comfort, your predictability, your patterns, everything that made you feel safe, and replaces it with uncertainty. But that's where strength is born. That's where purpose grows. Because nothing that stays the same ever reaches its potential. You'll start to notice that everything that once came easy now takes effort. Things that used to excite you suddenly feel hollow. People who once understood you start drifting away. That's not rejection, that's refinement. It's life cleaning your circle, filtering your energy, preparing you for a higher level. The higher you go, the less you can carry. And the chosen ones always walk lighter. Not because they've lost everything, but because they've learned to stop holding on to what's not meant to go. Refinement will make you question yourself. It'll make you doubt whether you're truly chosen or just cursed. Because while others are celebrating, you're rebuilding. While they're being noticed, you're being tested. It feels unfair, almost cruel. But purpose can't be built on untested character. The universe needs to see if your heart still beats for the mission when the rewards are gone. If you can stay loyal to the vision when everything else falls apart. That's the mark of the chosen. Consistency without compensation. And while you're in the fire, everything in you will want to escape. You'll beg for shortcuts, for relief, for signs that it's almost over. But refinement doesn't end when you're tired. It ends when you're transformed. when the noise inside you quiets. When you stop seeking validation and start seeking truth. When you realize that the pain wasn't there to punish you, it was there to purify you. Every scar you earn in refinement becomes proof that you were molded for more. Refinement also reveals who's real around you. The moment you start changing, people will get uncomfortable. They'll call you distant, arrogant, unrecognizable. That's fine. They're not supposed to understand your process. They didn't get chosen for your path. Refinement has a way of exposing who's attached to your purpose and who's attached to your comfort. Some people love the old version of you because it made them feel safe. The new version threatens their stillness. But you can't stop evolving just because someone else refuses to grow. The chosen walk through fire because the crown they carry is heavy. It's not a reward, it's a responsibility. You have to be tough enough to lead when no one follows, strong enough to believe when everything's falling apart, calm enough to build when chaos screams around you. Refinement teaches you that strength doesn't come from having power. It comes from surviving the process that tried to take it away. And the strangest part, one day when the fire finally calms, you'll look back and realize that everything that tried to break you actually built you. The sleepless nights, the betrayals, the failures, they weren't detours, they were directions. You thought you were losing everything, but you were just losing what couldn't go with you. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. The chosen aren't born with crowns. They're built through crucibles. And the fire that once terrified you, it's the same fire that made you unstoppable. Tomorrow favors the disciplined, not the desperate. Everyone wants tomorrow to change their lives, but no one wants to do what it takes today. Desperation screams for miracles. Discipline quietly builds them. Desperation wants results now. Discipline creates results that last. Desperation is loud, impatient, chaotic. It burns fast and fades faster. But discipline is cold, silent, unshakable. It doesn't need motivation. It doesn't beg for luck. It just moves. Step by step, breath by breath, until what once looked impossible becomes inevitable. People confuse wanting something badly with deserving it. They think passion is enough. They think if they cry hard enough, wish loud enough, pray long enough, something magical will happen. But the truth, tomorrow doesn't care about your emotions. It doesn't reward your tears. It rewards your habits. It rewards what you've been building in the dark, while others were busy complaining about how unfair life is. Because tomorrow doesn't listen to the desperate. It observes the disciplined. The disciplined ones don't chase opportunities. They prepare for them. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They create it through repetition. They understand that the future belongs to those who keep showing up when no one else does. They don't need to feel ready. They don't need applause. They just need consistency. Because every time you choose effort over excuses, you shift something. Every time you follow through instead of falling apart, you build momentum. And momentum is what tomorrow recognizes. Desperation comes from fear. fear of losing, fear of missing out, fear of being forgotten. But discipline comes from faith, the quiet knowing that if you keep going, if you keep doing the work, things will eventually align. Desperate people chase, disciplined people attract. Desperation tries to control everything. Discipline focuses on what it can control. Desperation is emotional chaos dressed as ambition. Discipline is calm precision disguised as boredom. That's why it doesn't look exciting, because real growth rarely is. Discipline isn't about motivation. It's about obedience to your vision. It's doing what you said you would do long after the mood you said it in has disappeared. It's getting up when your body wants to stay down, speaking life when your mind is drowning in doubt, moving forward when everything around you screams stop. It's not glamorous. It's gritty, repetitive, exhausting. But that's where power comes from. Not from passion, but from persistence. The desperate burn out because they run on emotion. They rise fast and fall faster. They talk about their goals. They post about their grind. They make noise about their next move. But noise doesn't build legacies. Noise fades. The disciplined, on the other hand, they're too busy working to explain themselves. They don't announce what they're doing. They just keep doing it. Quietly. Ruthlessly. Because they know that consistency doesn't need an audience. It only needs time. Tomorrow doesn't belong to those who dream big. It belongs to those who stay steady. The world is full of dreamers who never do, and doers who never stop. The desperate want shortcuts. The disciplined want mastery, and mastery takes time. Time most people aren't willing to give. Discipline forces you to slow down, to build brick by brick, while desperation wants the whole house overnight. But the house built overnight crumbles just as fast. The one built through discipline, that one stands through storms. Every great person you admire was once invisible. They were once the disciplined ones in the dark, doing what no one else wanted to. While others rested, they rehearsed. While others complained, they corrected. While others waited for motivation, they created movement. They didn't need the world to notice. They needed themselves to be ready. Because they understood that tomorrow doesn't favor noise. It favors preparation. Discipline demands sacrifice. You give up comfort, distraction, and instant gratification. You trade right now for what's next. You stop chasing validation and start chasing improvement. You stop comparing timelines because you finally understand. Consistency beats speed every time. Desperation wants results immediately, but discipline builds a foundation that can hold the weight of success when it arrives. Because nothing collapses faster than success built on impatience. When you live with discipline, you stop waiting for signs. You stop begging for a break. You stop wishing for someone to save you. Because you realize no one's coming. And that's not a tragedy, that's power. You become your own rescue plan. You become the reason things start to shift. You stop depending on luck, because you understand that discipline is luck. It's preparation meeting opportunity. Tomorrow doesn't favor the loud. It doesn't favor the lucky. It favors the ones who showed up yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that, even when it didn't matter. The ones who stayed loyal to their routine when the results were invisible. The ones who stayed grounded when others got distracted. Desperation begs for change. Discipline builds it brick by brick, day by day. And when tomorrow finally comes, it won't surprise the disciplined. It will recognize them. It will hand them what others wished for but never worked for. Because while the desperate were hoping, the disciplined were preparing. While the desperate were panicking, the disciplined were progressing. Tomorrow doesn't choose randomly. It chooses who earned it in silence. Pain is the rehearsal for greatness. Everyone wants to be strong, but no one wants to bleed for it. Everyone wants the crown, but they run from the thorns. Pain isn't the enemy, it's the instructor. It's the voice that says, "You're not done yet." The world sells comfort as a prize, but comfort doesn't create warriors. Pain does, because pain strips away everything fake. The lies you tell yourself, the illusions you hide behind. The weakness you pretend isn't there. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for timing. It just walks in and starts breaking things. And in the middle of the wreckage, it asks a single question. How bad do you want to rise? Most people fold when pain arrives because they think it's punishment. They think life's being cruel. But pain isn't here to destroy you. It's here to expose you. It reveals what you're made of, what you believe in, and how far you're willing to go when everything feels impossible. It's easy to be positive when life is kind. It's easy to smile when everything's working. But pain removes the mask. It takes away the applause, the distractions, the fake confidence, and leaves you face to face with your real self. That's where transformation begins. Greatness doesn't come wrapped in peace. It comes through pressure. Every legend you know was broken before they became who they are. They were betrayed, abandoned, ridiculed, doubted, destroyed. And still, they didn't stop, because pain became their practice field. Every scar turned into strategy. Every setback turned into strength. They stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What now?" They realized that pain doesn't mean you're off track. It means you're getting closer. The higher you climb, the heavier it gets. That's not punishment, that's preparation. Pain teaches you things comfort never could. It teaches patience, the kind that comes from waiting when